The 2025 NFL Draft only features one interior offensive line prospect worthy of a first-round pick. Stay tuned to find out which player that is. Another one of the weaker position groups in the 2025 NFL Draft is the interior offensive lineman. So if your team needs a guard or a center, you better hope that they draft one of these top 10 guys. Our three tiers that we have for this video: Tier 3 is developmental starters, Tier 2 is quality starters, and then Tier 1 is plus starters. Not very many names in that plus starter list. That is coming later on in this video. At developmental starters in Tier 3, we've got Joshua Gray, the guard/center from Oregon State, Marcus Bow, the tackle/guard from Purdue, and then Seth McLaughlin, the center from Ohio State. I really liked Seth McLaughlin until he tore the Achilles, and I think that the Achilles injury is going to significantly hurt his impact in the NFL. Not being able to generate force with your Achilles tendon as an offensive lineman, especially as a center, is a huge problem. But his tape was fantastic. I thought he showed some pretty good instincts. I thought he showed some pretty good flexibility and foot speed, but we'll have to see what ends up happening with his recovery timeline.
Yep, he was one of the more just improved players in college football from what we saw from him at Alabama in 2023 to 2024 in his lone year with Ohio State. I think he took a nice step forward. Joshua Gray is like one of my biggest sleepers in this class out of Oregon State, Joe, because Oregon State did him a disservice at times. They played him at tackle a lot in his career, and it was just so obvious that he was an interior offensive lineman. They moved him to guard in 2024. I think he could potentially play center as well. Like, he's got really clean movement skills, lateral mobility. He's not the strongest offensive lineman of all time, but at 6'4", over 300 pounds, I think in a outside zone movement-based system, I think he's got a lot of upside that he brings to the table. So I'd like to mention of him. And then Marcus Bow he's kind of a wild card in this class, isn't he? Right? Because he played a lot of right tackle the last couple of years at Purdue, but he did start at guard also a little bit earlier in his career. So I'm interested to see. Some teams I think are going to view him as a tackle, a guy that should fail out there and then move inside the guard. But I think he's got really nice movement skills and ability to develop. It's just about now there is going to be a lot of projection because he has more tackle tape than he does guard tape on the college level.
Tier 2, Ryan, is the group of guys that I think are going to be the most highly sought after. I think this is going to be the group that maybe even a bunch of them go earlier than expected because teams really need guards. They need somebody to start at center, whatever it is, that they are going to just jump because the options are very few and far between. At quality starter at number 7, we have Kate Ratledge of Georgia. At number 6, we have Gray Zabel of North Dakota State. Number 5, we have Jared Wilson of Georgia. Number 4, we have Emory Jones of LSU. Number 3, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. And number 2, Jonah Savanea of Arizona. A lot of guys to get through with that grouping. I want to draw attention to Tate Ratledge very quickly. He was somebody who I had a first-round grade on over the summer, got banged up, impacted his movement skills. If there's any player on here that outplays this ranking and goes on to becoming a Pro Bowl caliber guard, I think it's Tate Ratledge, just because it was kind of hard to truly gauge what he was this year, being how banged up he was.
I mean, he's big and physical, right? And he's played a lot of football, obviously, for Georgia, and he's an underrated athlete as well. I do think he has good movement skills. So it is unfortunate. I wish he would have potentially been a little bit healthier this year, because if he did, I think he has a chance to be much higher on this list. But I do think a team has a value pick for him now. I mean, he's still probably going to go on day 2, somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd round, but I think it is considerably a little bit lower probably than he would have been before the year. Fascinating that we have back-to-back up top. Jonah Savanea out of Arizona. I think it's pronounced a little bit differently, but my apologies. I didn't have a chance to do that pronunciation guide before we got here. And Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. They played mostly guard, but also Savanea played a lot of tackle at Arizona, but they've played both guard and tackle during their times in college. Yep. And I would argue, Joe, despite the fact that their body types and their play styles say that they might be a guard on the NFL level, I would argue that both Jackson and Savanea had some really good tackle tape. I mean, obviously more for Savanea than we saw from Jackson, who just was a fill-in when Josh Simmons got hurt this year. But I'm conflicted with them a little bit, and I grade them as guards, but I'm conflicted because I do think the NFL is going to view them, at least guys that could potentially play tackle early on. So it's going to be interesting to see, just kind of developmentally speaking, if they get a shot at tackle before they move ultimately inside the guard.
Yeah, there are a lot of dudes, if you're paying attention to this list and you're going and pulling up any of these bios, that were playing tackle, that are making that transition because their movement skills in space it's not great. If we move them into a phone booth, they're able to utilize their power. I think Emory Jones is a really good example of that. A guy that I like more than the consensus. He actually ended up being my fourth highest rated interior offensive lineman. I think that if there's somebody who outplays a poor pre-draft process, Emory Jones could be that player. Want to highlight Jared Wilson before we get to tier one. He has some of the easiest feet that I've seen from a center prospect in the past couple of years. I think that he gets to the second level super easily. He is a player who takes really good angles. He's super fluid. He is one of the few centers in this class that I feel like is plug and play and has an immediate impact wherever he lands.
It's funny because he ran like 4.84 at the combine, right? So like people will see that number, but I mean, he is just, even before you saw his combine performance, you just knew that he was going to do some pretty good testing stuff because he's so clean, right? Athletically, like he moves so well in space. He redirects well. I think he also has been working in the pre-draft with Charles Bentley, who was a Pro Bowl center for a long time in the NFL, which makes a lot of sense. He's not the biggest guy in the world comparatively to some guys, but enough size, enough strength, and he's a really smart and intelligent athlete just overall, and that moves incredibly well. So I think all those things together, you have the best center in this class by a pretty steep margin, in my opinion.
Last guy in tier one, which is plus starter. We don't have any blue chippers here for the interior offensive line. Tyler Booker from Alabama, the only guy that like I would feel really content taking in the first round. The rest feel like reaches to me. Tyler Booker's tape is so steady. He anchors really well. He generates force really quickly and easily. He will completely demolish guys in pass protection if he's able to get a really good, well-timed punch. And I think that the other part about this that isn't on the film that you hear about Tyler Booker, everyone that you talk to, I've heard it from talking to you, I've heard it from talking to other people who are familiar with the Alabama offensive line room, that he is a very high character young man who is a great leader. I have a lot of faith out of any of these interior offensive linemen, maybe any of the prospects, that I feel like Tyler Booker is going to end up working in the NFL.
He is, yes, great leader. He's got the great intangibles. He has been a leader for Alabama for multiple years. Funny one, Joe, he went to IMG Academy, and I think his junior year, he was the starting right tackle, and J.C. Latham was the left tackle. So that was a lot of beef on that offensive line at IMG, to say the least. But he is dense and physical, man. And there's no nonsense to his game. And if you've ever heard him interview, you understand why. Like, this guy is a very confident and physically just driven young man. Like, he wants to inflict pain on dudes, and he's massive. And some people overthought it because of the athleticism testings. But like, again, if you watch Tyler Booker, did anybody think that he was a dynamic athlete? Like, no, this guy is a powerful dude. Like, he's a guy that wants to play in tight quarters. He wants to be super physical. So yes, some outside zone heavy teams might not love Tyler Booker, but if you were a gap team, if you're an inside zone heavy running scheme, I think that you're going to love Tyler Booker with the impact he makes in the run game and the movement that he creates at the point of attack.
Folks, let us know in the comments, what do you think of our top 10 interior offensive linemen? Hit that like button and subscribe. We'll be back with more.